Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington, where you will hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers that are moving Greater Burlington forward. Here is your host, Stephen Brody.
Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington. Ritter's Incorporated is a third-generation business founded by Ralph and Pauline Ritter that specializes in landscaping, nursery, and bedding plants and unique gift ideas. Ritter started business in 1969 in Fort Madison, Iowa, by Ralph and Pauline Ritter. A second location was opened in West Burlington in 1981, managed by Stephen and Lynn Ritter. In 2004, Steve and Lynn purchased the company from Ralph and Pauline. Ritter's has been landscaping Southeast Iowa and West Central Illinois for over 50 years. Ritter's greenhouses have been producing bedding plants and poinsettias of the highest quality for over 45 years. Their goal is to exceed their customers' expectations with quality, value, and professional service. And I'm sure anybody who has been a customer of Ritter's over the years can certainly attest to that. We're pleased to have with us today Steve Ritter, owner of Ritter's Landscaping Home and Garden Center. Steve, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
I wanted to first of all congratulate you and the business, 50 years and growing.
Yeah, that just means I'm old. And I've been there in one form or another for the entire time. Admittedly, the first 5 years or so, I was probably not as useful as I am since then. But no, we now have actually a fourth generation that is helping. We have our granddaughters come in and help out at the shop as well.
That's excellent. When you get to 50 years of being in business, there has to be something that you can look at to say, this is why we've lasted so long. Is there something you can attribute to that?
Well, I mean, we've had a core business for the entire 50 years, and that is a garden center and the landscaping. And then we have kind of ventured off in those areas to pick up new items, to pick up new things to do, to constantly evolve. And having the multiple generations, that's what makes that kind of possible. I'm at the point in my career now where I'm slowing down and change isn't all that attractive to me. But yet the next generation's coming on and I just let them run with it and they run much faster than I do.
Yes. How did things get started, Steve? When it was started with Ralph and Pauline back in 1969, did they have a landscaping background or was this something new to them?
My father always enjoyed landscaping. He enjoyed his own homes, landscaping his own homes. And actually he was an agronomist. So he was into plant material and how to develop things. And he actually developed several varieties of seed corn.
Oh.
And when I was born in Huntsville, Alabama, because my dad was working there for PAG at the time, and they transferred him to Spencer, Iowa.
Okay.
And at the time, he looked at my mother and said, "Hey, why don't we open a garden center in Huntsville?" A population of about 40,000 at the time.
Yeah.
Being a young mother with two children, she said, let's take the guaranteed paycheck and head off to Spencer. And Spencer was a beautiful community. We lived there for quite a while. And then we were making some more changes while we were in Spencer. And at that time, he never forgot about what he really wanted to do. And
Yeah.
so some friends of mine opened up Dell's Garden Center in Spencer. So they kind of ruled out us probably opening a second one there.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we looked around the state for some business that he could purchase and turn into what he wanted it to be.
I gotcha.
So I look at the time, it just seemed, well, that's no big deal. As I've gotten older and I look back and I say, well, yeah, he kind of walked out on the edge and looked over. And so I have nothing but respect for the way that he started it.
Yeah.
And the courage that it took to do it.
Yes, and then you took it over in 2004. Was that a leap of faith, or was that something that was in the works?
It was in the works. My wife and I have been part owners for some time, but we had sat down and visited. My mother retired for some health issues fairly early. And then my father went on and did commercial landscaping. And then Lynn and I continued to operate the garden center and the landscaping here. And so we discussed it with him, and he said, well, there's really no reason that you need to buy this all right now. He said, no sense strapping you for cash. We'll just run with it as it is. But he said, when you get 51%, you're going to have 99 or 100%. And so as soon as we hit that 50% ownership, then we just went ahead and flipped it and made it, bought the other 50% out. Apparently, he did not want to be a minority owner.
Really? Just like, you can have it.
Well,
Give it all.
well, the habit made it be a misconception, but I always teased him that, you've been taking advantage of me for so many years. You just think I'm going to do that to you, which is just joking, obviously. But no, Lynn and I had been running this one for a long time, and so it was just a natural progression.
What are the challenges that you have to face in a business like this? I don't know, maybe there's obvious ones, but for someone who's listening, it's like, okay, you're running a landscaping business, you're running a home and garden place. What kind of challenges do you have to prepare yourself for?
Well, everything changes over time, and the problems that I encountered as a young business owner are completely different than what my sons will encounter at this time. What I encountered was, all right, how do we sell enough? How do we keep things moving? How do we keep ahead of everything? How do we grow the business? Which direction do we grow? Yeah. Never once did I worry about having enough employees.
Okay, nice.
Because we could always hire more. Yeah. I mean, there was, what we do, people enjoy doing. The employee market now is completely different. And so my sons and I and my wife sit down and we discuss this all the time. We have to be a little creative. How do you find enough people to go do the things that you can sell more work than you can get done? Yeah. And how do you find enough people? So that's been an evolution. And when this first started, I sat my sons down, and we talked. And I said, guys, this is cyclical. It always comes and goes. There's times when it's hard to find people, and then there's times where everybody walking through the door is looking for a job. Yeah. I don't know that time's coming back, but I hope it does sometime soon. Not that I want people out looking for work necessarily, but it does change.
In the line of work that you're in, is there a certain type of employee that you're looking for in terms of as long as they're breathing, we want them to come to work? Are you looking for folks that have a passion or they have a specialized interest in landscaping and flowers and gardening?
That's generally the case with everything that we do retail. Mm-hmm. Almost everyone that works for us loves what they're doing and loves to be involved in that type of work. Yeah. The greenhouse workers, the outdoor plant people, and the gals inside with the interior decorating parts and the sympathy items and the gift market and that sort of thing. They all like what they're doing, and that's why they came to us, and that's why they want to stay with us. And so that works out real well. The landscaping end, obviously, is much more labor-intensive, and it's hard, back-breaking work. Yeah. Generally, the people that want to do that, they just want to be outside. They don't want to sit in a factory. They don't want to breathe stale air. They want to breathe fresh air and be out in the sunshine, getting things done. And have a great sense of accomplishment, because at the end of the day, you look and say, well, yeah, I did that. And so that helps it, because, there's other people looking and go, man, that is hard work. Why in the world would you want to do that? You go home, you're exhausted, you're sweaty, you're dirty, but you're happy.
Yeah. And you mentioned cyclical. The business itself, are you busy 12 months out of the year, or is there such a thing as a quiet time?
There is, and actually, as I've gotten older, I've learned to accept the quiet time and actually look forward to it. It's a recharging time. Younger in my career, I was always looking for a way, how do we fill that quiet time and do something that'll generate income and keep us busy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was good. But now we actually look forward to that time when it's a little slower and say, okay, we'll just have to do some management here and manage the times when it's slow. The hard part of that, because we definitely have, January, February.
I would think so.
It's pretty dead.
Yeah.
And then what do you do with all your employees during that time?
Oh, sure.
And so a lot of our employees like having a layoff period. Some do not. And so we kind of work through that.
Mm-hmm.
The greenhouse is up and going by the time we get to February. January is pretty much universal everywhere in Iowa. January is January, and it's just not going to be busy.
Yeah.
However, you catch up, you clean up, you re-wax the floor, you repaint, you do all those sort of things. It gives us an excellent time to do that. With the landscaping, we are not slow at all in the summer anymore. Our business has evolved, and landscaping was, when I first started landscaping, it was planting grass, planting plants, had a lot to do with horticulture and the growing of plants.
Mm-hmm.
And we still do a lot of that, but there's a lot of hardscaping. Essentially, it's just another phase of construction.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of patios, a lot of water features, lighting. All these things where you can go do them in July and don't have to worry about something dying because it's not alive to start.
I know that a lot of folks, including myself, if I go to a business like yours, obviously I want to rely on your knowledge and your experience, and because I don't know one flower from the next, or if my wife would ask certain questions. So how does an employee, how does somebody attain that knowledge that they can, with relative certainty, they can be prepared to answer those tough questions when customers come in?
Well, that's a good question, because finding people who already have the knowledge is not always possible.
Sure.
We have been very fortunate in the past. We've had people come in who have done this in the past, and that's what they want to do. However, like I said, most people come in and go, I've always dreamed of doing this, and this is what I want to do. Recently retired or changing profession at the later end of their career.
Yeah.
We have a lot of those employees, especially at the store.
Yeah.
And what they do, they have such a great interest in it. We have a lot of master gardeners.
Okay.
So they already have an interest before they ever came in the door. So they have certain things that they know. And then they learn as they go, and they're sponges. They want to learn it. They want to know more about it. It isn't that I have to sit them down and say, here's what we're going to do today. Somebody will come in with a question, and if it's a fairly new employee, they'll stay with me while I explain to the customer what the answer to their question, and that way they start to just absorb the knowledge, and so they know. Then the next time somebody comes in with the same thing, they go, I think it's this, but let's ask Steve. And then pretty soon they get to the point, here's what it is.
Yeah.
Now we still have customers that'll come in and say, okay, but is Steve here so I can find out for sure? And and our employees have grown to expect that, and even though they already know the answer, they generally are more than happy to say, "Okay, Steve, what do you think this is?" And then I'll tell them, I go, "Well, that's what I thought too." So, but they do they learn it as we go, and just the experience of it. So having people who've been with us for several years really helps.
Is the next generation getting instilled with that same knowledge?
Yes. Now, both my sons have horticulture degrees.
Okay.
So the basic plant science, they know. They've been doing hardscaping type of landscaping since they were 18 years old. They all worked on jobs all through high school. They both went and worked somewhere else while they were in college, which expanded their horizons a little bit. And they were able to bring new things back to our business. So it's been a real pleasure working with them. And then a number of years ago, I actually went and taught a horticulture program out at the college and turned all the landscaping over to them. And under fire, they learned real fast.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, and you touched upon it earlier, Steve. I mean, there's things evolve over the years. There's a necessity to continuously learn and to know what's going on. So in your line of work, are there such things as shows to go to or vendor conferences, anything like that, trade shows to kind of stay on top of what's going on in the industry?
There really is. And in the past, and this is something that I kind of regret is going away. But in the past, there are trade shows and there are trade organizations. There's the Iowa Nursery and Landscape Association, which my son and I have both been the president of that organization over the years. Then there was the Western Nursery and Land, which was a regional, all the Midwestern states together. And I'm a past president of that. So by going to these things, you learn, you stay on the cutting edge. We bring in college professors and they'll speak about the new things, the new diseases, the new problems with this, that, or the other thing. I've become and my son Ryan as well, and my son Chris too. I've gotten on a first name basis with a lot of these people who are right on the edge and finding out. By the same token, you meet a whole bunch of people in this industry who then become your friends over time and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. What are you guys doing now? And so we share ideas that way as well. And it's kind of like a brotherhood. I have great nursery friends in Oklahoma, in Nebraska, in Kansas, and we really enjoy exchanging ideas. We sit down and we show each other what we're doing. And so that is one way for the landscaping to stay on the cutting edge. And then you find out new techniques they're using, new equipment that they've bought that has worked out well and some that hasn't worked out so well. As far as retail-wise, Lynn and I go to at least 2 markets a year to find. We live in an era now where they have a lot of what they call big box stores. And the big box stores will generally take something that has been successful and they will run with it and try to dominate that market. We have to get in there ahead of them, and we're the ones that help make that successful. In other words, we find the new items that are going to work, and the only way to do that is to go to the markets and see when the new stuff is coming out. We'll have it for a few years, and then they'll pick it up, and then we're always looking for the next new thing.
Yeah. No, and and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because there obviously has to be a trial and error period with certain products, and then you have to make that decision at some point. Do we continue to invest in that, or do we drop it and we look for something else?
And we're always looking for something new. And sometimes I pick out things that work, and sometimes we pick out things that don't. And you never know. But then you try to turn that over, and then we'll go on to something else and try it. But you start to get a feel for it as you go along. And if it catches my eye as it's new and different and exciting, generally it's going to catch the customer's eye as the same sort of thing. The only place I have to be a little careful of is I'm what is commonly known as a plant nerd. And so I love plants and I love different, new, and just because it's weird, I like it.
You like weird.
I like weird plants. The fact that it does something that other plants of that variety don't do, well, I like that. Customers, not so much. It has to do something that they like, not just the fact that it's different. So,
is it something that might be at Ritter's and not necessarily at a big box store?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We handle some of the same things as the big box stores do, obviously. Generally, we try to handle bigger, better. Our customer base comes in already expecting to pay a little more for something, but they want it to be bigger, better. And so we'll go into big trees that it takes somebody, it isn't one that they can necessarily put on the back of their pickup truck and go home and plant. It may be one that we have to go plant for them. Or if they have a loader at home, they can go do it. But we're willing to take that on and service. Our customer base isn't necessarily the general public. It is the customers are going to come who want something bigger, better.
And how far would your customer base, your service area be, Steve?
Our regular customers were probably about 75-mile radius.
Okay.
We'll go to Fairfield. We have a lot of customers that'll come in from that area, Galesburg. Obviously, Fort Madison, Keokuk.
Yeah.
Going north, the Quad Cities is there, so we usually will go up to Wapello and that area. But we do actually, as we were talking earlier, we do television advertising, and it goes into the Quad Cities.
Yeah.
And so we'll draw a lot of people down who come in to get certain things that they see on our television ad. We have a really big selection of trees. Again, I'm a plant nerd, so something new comes out, I buy them.
Yeah.
And so people come in knowing they're going to be able to find a tree when a lot of times they're hard to find at other places because they're seasonal. They get them in and then they get out of them and then they don't have them for a while.
And where do you find your product from, Steve? I mean, it might be an obvious question but that's something that always has fascinated me in the line of work. Where do you go to replenish the flowers and the plants and the trees?
Well, we grow a lot of our own bedding plants.
Okay.
And then I have some friends who have greenhouses in the area. So if we need to fill in on some things, we can do that.
Yeah.
And then there's certain people who grow certain plants and do a better job than anybody else. And so then we'll go there and get those. And again, how do you meet them? Well, you meet them over time. You find out where you can find these things, and then you keep going there.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I'm a little disheartened by the fact that you no longer have the big nursery trade shows as much as you once did.
Yeah.
Because then you meet growers and you look and see what they have, and they bring samples with them. And
right.
But we also have salesmen that'll come through and they'll have a truck and it's all loaded up with new stuff, and so they'll show it to us that way as well. And so we can kind of go that route too. But on our plant material, a lot of it comes out of Ohio, Oregon, Oklahoma. I mean, it comes from all over the place. Washington. So Oregon and Washington are must be plant heaven because man, there's all these nurseries and luckily we have salesmen that rep for multiple nurseries, and sometimes they can group trucks together. So if I only need a few things from each nursery, they group it together and ship it out to us. So again, it just takes time to figure it out.
Yeah. I have to ask you, as I ask a lot of guests, how were you affected during COVID and during the pandemic in terms of either supply line or in terms of just having product to sell?
Well, and that was a problem when we first started into COVID. We had gotten to the point, for efficiency's sake, where we had just-in-time deliveries. In other words, you'd order stuff to get there just in time. So you didn't hold stuff very long. You just got it right when you needed it. During COVID, the availability of a lot of things went away, and therefore you had to get it when you could get it. And so we've changed that a little bit. We now actually get trees in sometimes in the middle of the summer. Do I want trees in the middle of summer? No, but I can get what I want at that time. So we bring them on in, and so that has changed. And obviously, people were stuck at home, so our business flourished during COVID. Any paint business or landscaping business, most of them flourished during COVID because people were staying at home working.
I bet. Well, and like you said, it gave people an excuse to get out.
Yeah, and they wanted to do something, and they couldn't go someplace. They couldn't. That trip they had booked to Florida, they couldn't take, and so they took that money and said, "All right, let's dress up our house. Let's put in a new patio. Let's make a vacation spot right here." Yeah,
staycations and a lot of the opportunity to do remodeling projects that they were putting off. Now it's like, hey, I'm here.
And I have money because I can't go spend it where I was going to go.
Right.
And so that worked out well that way. And it really expanded some of the things that our landscaping crews did as well. I mean, between pavilions and pergolas and fire pits, and people have got some of the nicest patios that maybe wouldn't necessarily have done that if they were still out traveling across the country.
Yeah. A curious question I wanted to ask. Obviously, you've been doing this for so long. Can you think of maybe an item that you had at the store where, you went ahead and you brought it in, maybe it'll sell, maybe it won't sell, and it took off. And it was like really successful. And you're like, wow, I had no idea this was going to be so popular.
Well, And it is funny. There have been some of those home run type items. I know we went to a market in Minneapolis one time, and we'd never been there before. Saw a new vendor, and I thought, well, I like these. And my wife goes, I think we got carried away. We ordered an awful lot of that stuff. And then we get back to the store, and it flew out of the store, and we just couldn't get enough of it back in.
Yeah.
We this last market that we went to, we went through the temporary showrooms, and we were walking down, and a thing with spinners caught my eye clear down at the end. I said, "Those are awesome. We got to." They catch my eye from across this huge room. I think those will be a winner. And so again, we went in real heavy into them, and lo and behold, we reordered, and now you wonder, okay, how long will this last? How long do we keep doing it?
Yeah.
And when the sales start to slow down, then you shift and you go do something else. But every now and then you get a good feeling about something, and you go in on it. Doesn't always work. There are times when I've loaded up with things, and we have those for Thanksgiving dinner. We eat those. But that's just a figure of speech, obviously. But there are times when
it's garnish.
Yeah, it's just didn't work out quite the way we thought, and then you just go on and try something else.
The spinners you're talking about, where were people wanting to put those?
Oh, they put them in their house. They put them on their patio. They put them on their front porch. A lot of them put them in the kitchen window. Because they're kind of mesmerizing. And when people were at home, they like to sit and watch them and watch them turn, and they just go, "Ooh, that's neat."
Yeah.
And again, they keep coming out with new ones, and after we purchased them, then we would see them at other places, and we'd go, "Oh, yeah." So then we go out and check. Yep, they're in the same price range that we are, so we're in good shape there. And again, it's kind of fun. But again, how long does it last? Well, you never know, and then you shift on to something else.
Right. Well, in the few minutes that we have left, Steve, what do you see, down the road for not only the business but also the industry that you're in? Is there something around the corner that you're looking forward to, that you're having to prepare for?
Well, we are at a stage of changing generations in our business right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm no longer looking for the new thing that is going to be the future of our business, because I'm not probably going to be there to implement it. And so my sons are now looking at things. And I said, "You guys this has got to become your idea, your baby, your what you want to do and what you like to do." And so that's what we're in the process of doing now. Our landscaping is going big guns, and my youngest son is now taking a little bit more of an interest in the greenhouse, so he's growing some things, and so we'll help him go through that sort of thing. But as we move forward in the next few years, you may see some changes at Ritter's, because it's going to be what they want to do and what they, I have been fortunate that every day I get up and go to work and I have fun and I enjoy what I'm doing. And that makes it go a lot smoother. And so they have to be able to do the same thing. Yeah. So it's going to shift a little bit. What we do is very common, a family business, where it's one generation to the next generation to the next generation, and they all evolve. And so we'll see where they take us.
But the good part is that this has been a business that has survived through the generations, because oftentimes you'll get one that you'll have one generation all excited, and then the next generation comes along and says, "I want nothing to do with this."
Well, and actually, it's funny that you would say that. When I went off to college, I told my dad when I left and packed up the car and away I went to Ames, I said, "There's got to be an easier way of making a living than this. Don't expect me to come back." And as I got into doing different things, I found out everything I liked to do was what I already had been doing. Yes, It was hard work, but I enjoyed it. My oldest son, "Don't expect me to be back, Dad." He said, "I'm going to go off to the big city and have fun and do this."
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he gets done college. He says, "Yeah, I think I'll come back and work on this because I really enjoy doing it too." So,
nice.
It does survive, but it has to be something that you want to do, not something that you're expected to do.
Right. As we close this out, Steve, tell everyone again where you're located and your hours of operation.
Well, we change that throughout the year, but we're always open Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5:30. On Saturday, we're open from 8:30 to 4. And then during peak seasons, a.k.a. Christmas and the springtime, we're open Sundays from 11 to 4. We try not to be open to Sundays any more than we have to be, but that's the times that we're open. We're in West Burlington, right across from the side entrance to Walmart. We're on Broadway Street, and we've been there for now, like you said, 40-some years that we have been there, and we've watched everything grow up around us.
Sure. And you do have a website, right? Is it
we do.
Ritters.com?
Rittersinc.com.
Rittersinc.com.
With a C.
Okay.
I never thought I had to add that with a C, but then I had a lady go, I've been trying this. I put down Ritters Inc. And then she spelled it out, and I said, well, no, we don't sell ink. It's incorporated. It's ink. But so it's www.rittersinc.com.
Great. Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and get to know the business. And again, congratulations on 50 plus years here in the greater Burlington area. And we just wish you continued success.
Well, thank you very much.
We thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to us, and give us a call at the Greater Burlington Partnership if you have any ideas on future guests. Until then, have a great day, and we'll see you next time on All Things Greater Burlington.
You have been listening to All Things Greater Burlington with Stephen Brody. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to catch all new episodes. To learn more about All Things Greater Burlington, visit greaterburlington.com/ATGB.